Welcome to this episode of News Dose, where I give you some of the latest news, rumors, and speculation on the game industry. Because I don't usually like long-winded intros, let's get right into this. Now, we have been hearing about the Nintendo Switch Mini for a while now, and I was actually just discussing this on another video earlier this week, and by this point it's becoming one of the worst kept secrets in the game industry, to the point Nintendo is now having to respond to questions by investors. In a shareholders meeting earlier this week, Nintendo did acknowledge the rumor of Nintendo Switch Mini, and the answer to the question was interesting to say the least, responding, "We acknowledge that there have been reports. Answering to rumors and speculation would end up stealing surprises from our customers and also be unprofitable to all of our shareholders, so we have no answer to that. As a general theory, we are always performing development of new hardware." So they didn't flat out dismiss this question, which was already enough to speculate on all on its own. But what is even more intriguing was in how they worded the answer, saying it would be stealing surprises from customers, as well as be unprofitable to shareholders. Now, I said this in my previous video about the Switch Mini, but like I said before, if Nintendo announces the Switch Mini and Switch Pro too early, it could potentially hurt Nintendo Switch sales right now, because then customers will just choose to wait until the Mini and Pro does release. I think by this point it's practically confirmed though, and in this situation, if you read in between the lines, we really do already have our answer. I'm still betting on a September release myself, because not only is there a lot of games such as Zelda and Dragon Quest releasing in September, but it also gives parents plenty of time to get their kids a Switch for the holidays. If this were to happen, then I'd expect an announcement for the Switch Mini and Pro, if that's still a thing, in August. So Nintendo isn't really going to announce it just yet, but we understand what you're really trying to say, Nintendo. Wink wink. Speaking of Nintendo, this next game, TemTem, was heavily inspired by none other than Pokemon, and is coming to PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and the Nintendo Switch. It's supposedly supposed to release sometime this year, I do believe, but don't quote me on that. I hadn't actually heard of this game until last week, but for a limited time, you can buy this game on the Discord store and get access to the alpha. The alpha isn't the complete game, and I believe it only gives you access to the first 2 towns. When it does fully release though, it has 8 towns and 8 dojos to fight, which are basically Pokemon gyms, with 160 Temtems to fight. It's actually an MMO, and it looks like they're really trying to nail the competitive aspect of Pokemon. Now, I actually did already buy this, and I'm currently playing it right now, so stay tuned for another video and I'll give you my complete impressions on this game. It's currently $35 on Discord if you do want to try it out, and while I was a little hesitant to buy this on the Discord store, it will be crossplay with Steam when it does release, and when I asked the TemTem community, they were saying it's planned to be cross-platform with all platforms. Since we're on the topic of Pokemon, Junichi Masuda had a message for Pokemon fans about the controversy that surrounds Sword and Shield, if we can really call this a message. He said, "Just like all of you, we are passionate about Pokemon, and each and every one of them is very important to us. After so many years of developing the Pokemon video games, this was a very difficult decision for me. I'd like to make one thing clear. Even if a specific Pokemon is not available in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, that does not mean it will not appear in future games." Now, if you weren't aware, Sword and Shield is releasing later this year, but it had a lot of criticism after announcing that not all Pokemon will be in the game, and you won't be able to transfer Pokemon from past titles. My theory has been that they are excluding transfers from previous games to better balance the game. While the casual Pokemon fan may not understand the deep and fleshed out competitive scene, the more hardcore fans that dive into its multiplayer will understand that it is a bit unbalanced, but Game Freak hasn't really given a good explanation on why Pokemon is to be excluded. I also thought that they may turn it into a games as a service, much like Pokemon Go, where they release Pokemon in waves, but from this message, it appears they have no plans for that either, and you're just going to have to wait for future games. I'm still extremely excited for Sword and Shield myself, but I do absolutely understand fans being upset over this, and honestly, I think Game Freak shouldn't have put out this message. It was basically them acknowledging fans being upset, but without giving them any assurance. It just really seems like bad PR to me. Moving on, another indie game that you may want to pay attention to is Supra 2, which is just now entering Kickstarter. If you haven't heard of Supra before, it's because it is a hidden gem on Steam that people absolutely swear by being amazing. It's explained as being a combination of Portal, Metroid, and Zelda, so not a bad combination at all. And because the summer Steam sale is so amazing, you can now buy the first game for $13. I did myself, and I'll absolutely be playing this one this weekend as soon as I get the chance. And hey, maybe you should check it out too. In other news, it has now been confirmed that the Dragon Quest team is recruiting more members for future Dragon Quest titles, which already has me excited. Dragon Quest has consistently been one of the best JRPG franchises to date, and even though it hasn't sold extraordinarily well in the West, it absolutely deserves to. Now I'm just going to assume this title is going to be Dragon Quest XII, and during the Dragon Quest Walk event, executive producer Yu Miyake had a little tease for Dragon Quest fans saying, "By the way, about Dragon Quest XII, which I'm sure is on everyone's mind, Yuji Horii and I are currently making preparations on series development that will connect to 12. I think it's still too early, but we would like to announce it in some form, so please wait a little while longer." Now this presumed Dragon Quest XII title is likely years away and will probably release for next generation, but I'm going to go ahead and start hoping for a multi-platform release. PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox all day one, so let's make it happen. Of course, Xbox is probably the least likely since it doesn't really do well in Japan, but if somehow Xbox could manage to get Dragon Quest on Xbox Game Pass, and PC Game Pass for that matter, I think it would be very beneficial for both parties, and could give Dragon Quest a lot of recognition in the West. Now for the time being, if you do want a new Dragon Quest experience, you can now play the Dragon Quest Builders 2 demo. I believe it's on both PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, so go check that out. It actually seems like it's been a very busy week for Japanese games overall, and popular franchises getting sequels because now we're getting a new Ninokuni as well. Level 5 President Akihiro Hino did confirm that a brand new Ninokuni game is in development, though nothing else was really said about this. Now if you haven't played the original Ninokuni Wrath of the White Witch, I would highly recommend it. It's currently on PlayStation 3 and PC, but it is coming to the Nintendo Switch as well later this year. I want to say that's September 27th. I actually never finished this game, even though I really did like it a lot, and the art style is beautiful, sporting the classic Studio Ghibli anime art style. It had a good heartfelt story on top of that, and I'm definitely going to rebuy this on the Nintendo Switch and finally finish it. The sequel was pretty good as well, though I didn't find it as interesting as the original, but I still have high hopes for the third game. Interestingly enough, there is also going to be a Ninokuni movie, which in all honesty makes complete sense considering the work done with Studio Ghibli in the past. This is one of those games that should easily transfer over to a movie. Now let's change gears a bit here and talk about my favorite game of this generation. Overwatch will be getting a Force 222 composition, and rollout confirmed by the Overwatch League. I haven't actually played Overwatch in about 4 months and really haven't played ranked in probably 2 years, and that's because of just how stressful the game can be at times, and this is usually because poor behavior within the community and the lack of good teamwork. While teamwork is much better in this game than other games within the same genre, it doesn't stop people from playing the blame game and pointing all fault on other players. And one thing that has been obvious for a very long time, and really since the beginning, which was that players insta-lock DPS far too often, which tends to hurt the team's chance of winning when you have 5 DPS and 1 healer. It's just discouraging when you feel you have lost before the game has even started, and it didn't help that Overwatch has been completely dominated by the GOAT meta for what feels like an eternity now. Blizzard seems like they're finally stepping in to rectify this issue, and it may have players like me returning to this game once again. Of course, it's a controversial change, and not everybody will be happy, but let's see how this works out first since we've already tried the other way for so long. Now the last thing I want to talk about, and I won't say too much on this subject, but the popular mobile game Flappy Birds is getting a Battle Royale game. I always like to joke about how every game is going for this cash grab and making a quick Battle Royale, but yeah, I was thrown for a loop on this one. But hey, maybe you might want to check out Flappy Royale, so thought I'd at least mention it. Anyways, that's it for today's news dose, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.